breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, Dr. Glenn Harrison.
Hey, how are you today?
Man, we're doing good. I'm doing good. I'm excited for this because when we were brainstorming, pun intended, about some potential topics and ideas for this week's talk, we kind of had come at an impasse where we were like, man, we've talked about a lot of these different conditions. We've talked about how, you approach certain things, but we came up with the idea about what are some of the characteristics or the traits that the patients that we have had the best success with exhibit. And if there was a common thread or commonality across all the patients that we get our best results with, and that ultimately have the best outcomes when they do seek care. If this is your first time listening and you have questions about your own health or ways that you can optimize your health or even personal growth and stuff like that, hit like and subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this information with a loved one or your friends so that they can get some value out of it too. So without further ado, we're going to get started into this thing right now, and we're going to talk about our 4 characteristics or traits of a healthy person.
Mm-hmm. I love this. When we started to talk about it, because we get too technical, I don't say necessarily too technical, but we're diving down that pathogenic route all the time and strategies, but we didn't hit enough on everybody that's listening to this want to improve in one way or another. And what does it take? And we have front row seats to really see who's doing the best. So I think this is very important. So I know you had a list of when we were sitting down brainstorming on this, you had a list of what you felt the character traits that you saw your clients who are most successful. And I had a list, but then we came down and there was one difference where we kind of peered, we deviated paths. So maybe I'll get you to talk about the first one that we both agreed on.
Yeah. So I think that the first one, and ultimately the one that I think it makes the biggest difference for my patients, is those patients that walk in and they hold themselves personally accountable.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. Accountable for their own health. They know that ultimately we're just a guide and they're going to have to be the one that goes on the journey. We can point them in the right direction, but they are the ones that have to implement the actions to get to the place where they want to be. And this doesn't matter if it's Western medicine or traditional medicine or alternative medicine or holistic medicine. It's the same thing.
That's right.
That's
right. And
ultimately,
I always say, what would people do? What would people achieve if they did what they needed to do?
Yeah, exactly. And that whether that's, changing your diet, implementing a dietary or exercise regimen, or even just regularly taking your prescription medications, something as simple as that, you have to be accountable for. And that's the characteristic trait that I see that makes the biggest difference, because if you're not accountable and you think someone else is going to do it for you, you're not going to go anywhere.
For sure. And I completely agree with you on that being like probably the number one, because my appointments, I'll always have an appointment. We introduce some changes. We do whatever we need to do. The follow-up appointment, the first thing we talk about is not how they're doing, but were they able to implement the pieces we put in? It's an accountability piece. I actually have it right in my notes, accountability section, when I'm asking questions, and I follow up on exactly what we were doing. And then the second step is, how are you doing? Learning about their symptoms, because they say, Dr. Harrison, I still feel like X, Y, Z. I'm not doing very good.
Yeah, but have you implemented those changes we talked about? No, I haven't. So how is there any change?
So let's X that out.
Change something for it to have a change.
That's right. So accountability. I think we could leave that there. And then the biggest thing is we're going to talk about this on another podcast. We were just talking about accountability strategies to maintain accountability. The accountability partner.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one because we implement this, even the two of us.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, because this one's going to be a good one. This has really changed the way that not only the way that we practice, but also the way that we react and interact with our loved ones and within other framework of our life. So stay tuned, because that one's going to be a good one.
And that's coming up. So accountability. Okay, so that's one. What was the second one you had on your list?
So my second one was adaptability. Man, I could have had like the double A's and then the other ones, right? So adaptability is my second one. And I think that this one's important also because I think that if you are too rigid, and I think that sometimes I fall in this as well. In fact, we were talking about this earlier where I have to have a very laid out plan in a lot of the framework in my life. But I think that the ability to pivot when you need to pivot is really important. Because here's the thing, things are not always going to go swimmingly when you implement different changes within certain aspects of your health. If you're going on a certain diet and then all of a sudden, you have immunoreactivity to certain foods in there, then you're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to shift. You're going to have to go a different direction. I think that A, having the accountability, and B, having the adaptability to think, okay, this isn't the end of the world. We're still moving in a positive direction. We're implementing these changes in a systematic manner, but there are going to be things that we can't basically foresee that are going to be bumps in the road. And it's important that I'm able to adapt to those and continue on this health journey. I have an example of this, but I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, yeah. Well, how I see adaptability is everything that you said. And also what I noticed is, as we just said before, if we want to change something in our life, we have to change something that we're doing. It's really that simple. And if we have to change something that we're doing, just by nature, we have to adapt. We have to do something different, and that requires adaptation. So, for example, say every night I come home and I just get home and I, call up the fast food franchise and they deliver, and I sit there and watch TV. And that's what I relax. And that's my happiness. I have people I've worked with like that. That's my happiness. This is my favorite time of the day. I'm doing nothing. My taste buds are running my life and whatever's on TV. And then now maybe I want to lose weight. Maybe I want to control some health issues. And now I have to do something different. So I have to be willing to adapt, ready to adapt, willing. I think willing is the biggest thing. Willing to adapt. Adaptation is challenging. But the willingness to adapt to, okay, I want to change my health. I'm going to have to change my routine in the evening. That's not easy, because if that's the only thing that I find happiness in, and oh my goodness, how am I going to do that? We have to adapt, and adapting is challenging. But the people who do it, doesn't matter if it's a dietary change and they're always eating this, now they need to eat different foods. They learn. The successful people that I see, they're adapting their culinary skills. They might not know how to cook that food, anything about it, but they will adapt. I can't go into their kitchen and try to cook for them and all of that.
Exactly. That was actually the case I was going to use. I had a patient. I've actually had two patients. One was yesterday where we had done some food sensitivity testing, and they're like, oh, but I love to cook with this. Can I still cook with this? And I'm like, I don't know. Did you react to it? Well, yeah, I reacted to it. Then no. Like, I get it. I would love to cook with that also, but I love cooking with whatever the spice was, but you can't do it. So you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to figure out different options. You're going to have to figure out different recipes. And again, we can't do that for you, but it's important that you be able to do that. So I think that we just broke down two aspects of adaptations or adaptability, kind of within the same circle, but in different directions. So what is your third one?
My third one is, because we were all the same, even with this one, is maybe one that needed to even be higher on the list, and that's positivity, positive thinking. When I was years ago, when I was dealing with all my health issues, there was nothing positive in my life, and it turned into a neural pathway, a thought pathway where that's all. Everything was dark, everything was depressing, everything was doom and gloom. It didn't matter what was going on. And when people are in that negative mindset, they can't see any opportunity. If they can't see any opportunity, they tend to fail in every aspect of life. So we're talking about, character traits of a healthy person, but this is actually character traits of a successful person in life. And so positivity, I know I could just go with this one for a long, long time, but a healthy person tends to be more positive. And it has to start usually with the mind. It's difficult when you're sick. It's almost impossible, I guess, if we get into the gut biome and all of that. But it's necessary. I'll let you run with that one, because I'm kind of stalling out here on that one. I don't know what else to say.
Sure. I think that you hit on some key points that will allow me to extrapolate a little bit too. So the more that you fire specific pathways neuronally, the more efficient they get, right? So if you are a very negative person and you're a glass half empty and you go to the dark side all the time, it's very easy for you to go to the dark side, right? Because that pathway is strengthened. It's already like predisposed. You're already like already ready to go there. And as soon as one thing goes bad, boom, right back down the rabbit hole, right? The power of positive thinking, it's hard, right? It's difficult to maintain positivity all the time. But once you start firing it a lot, then it becomes more efficient, right? So even if you hear about these support groups where they do like, the 7 things I'm grateful for, or, do gratification exercises, and that can really help with turning their life around. Well, why is that, right? When you look for the glass half full, right, you see a lot more things as opportunities. And it's kind of like that cliche, well, oh, you're rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. If you have the right mind frame and the right mindset, it's true. You come out of school and you got a bad career, or you didn't graduate top of your class, whatever, you didn't get placed where you wanted to go. Well, guess what? Like, you work hard, you're positive, you keep your nose to the grindstone. Like, there's literally ample opportunities for you to move up. It's the same thing with health. If you're sitting on your couch and you are eating terrible foods and you're sedentary, you're not exercising at all, well, guess what? If you even start moving even a little bit, you're going to start to lose weight. If you start implementing very small changes, you're going to start to lose weight. When you start seeing those, that's going to be a positive thing, right? That can amplify the effects. You maintain that positivity, you hold yourself accountable, you adapt your diet and lifestyle, you implement some small changes. You're not going to change everything overnight. But if you can implement these really small changes, then slowly over time, you've got a lot of progress.
Yeah, a lot of wind in your sails to create the momentum and the confidence. Back to this positive component, what I was dealing with, everything was dark, and it wasn't until I had a few friends that tell me, and some family, they kind of shook me and said, this can't go on anymore. You've accomplished so much, you've done so much. Why? And it was stemmed from years ago, and it just turned into a tendency. And it really took a little bit of an awakening, and then realizing that always being in a negative mindset was very exhausting, and it wasn't changing my outcomes. In fact, it was probably making them worse. And until that shift happened, and of course it took a lot of gut health, it took a lot of self-help, and it took a lot of lifestyle modifications to get my health better, not to be a diabetic for one thing, to be able to make the decision and recognize at the crossroads whether I was going to let my mind go down the rabbit hole of negativity or sit there and ponder it a little bit. And until I had that level of health, I couldn't even make that. I couldn't even stop at the crossroads. I would just go down the rabbit tunnel of negativity and darkness and depression. And once I was able to make that, to be aware of where my mind was going, I was actually able to make a conscious decision to take the other path and to look at things a little bit more optimistically. Then I made it a passion of mine to focus on it, even when it was hard. And now my default mode is positivity and opportunity and hope. And do I get tested? Oh my goodness, I get tested. You know me very well. I get tested, and I think we all do, but it shouldn't be the only model. And the reason why I believe positivity is so important is because with chronic illness that we deal with every day, and maybe people living with chronic illness, listening to this, is it is very hard to be positive when you're sick. And if you let it beat you and knock you down, and you lose your sense of being empowered, the negativity will just take over, and it'll just blend in with the chronic illness, and you won't know one from another. So they work hand in hand, I guess. And the people who are more positive, even when they're sick, but more positive, they always do better. They heal faster. They're on board quicker. They're more adaptable. They're everything. So maybe positivity should have been number one.
Man, that is a good point. Maybe it should have been.
So this is where we I wouldn't say we divided, because I really appreciated what you talked about, Dr. Kolby, but I know that I had a little bit of a different one. I'll let you start with yours. This is where we kind of branched off.
Yeah. So my fourth one, and again, yours was great too. As soon as you put it, I was like, yeah, I could have easily had 5. My fourth one was mental fortitude. And I think that when you look at it, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. And you have to be mentally strong enough to know that it's going to be hard and do it anyways, right? Whether, and this could be in other aspects of your life as well. You know, you got a really hard test coming up. You know it's going to be hard, but does that stop you from studying? You know, you want to not be diabetic anymore in your case, or you want to lose 30 pounds. You know it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy because it took you a long time to get to the point where you're at. It's going to take you a long time to get to the point where you want to be. The difference is if you can implement all these strategies, right? And you can hold yourself accountable, you can adapt your lifestyle, all this stuff, you can maintain that positive attitude, and you have the mental toughness to do that thing every single day, day in and day out, then you are going to get the results that you want. It might not be overnight. That's the thing. You have to be mentally tough because it's not going to be easy to get where you want to be. But if you maintain that mental toughness and you implement the stuff that we started before, and you have a roadmap that's at least trying to guide you to where you want to be, then you can get the outcomes you want. But it's going to take you a lot of work, and you got to be tough.
That's so true. And now I'm maybe wishing I would have took this one off your hands here and chose it. But that fortitude to keep pushing, that grit. There's so many success stories that were exactly that. People had nothing. People didn't have any help. They were on their own. They were, poor as a church mouse, and it was their holding themselves accountable, having an amazing level of mental fortitude, being positive against the odds, and holding them and being adaptable. Those individuals, if you have those character traits and you really have that grit and you have the faith that everything is, you are going to get over that hurdle.
It's not if you get there, it's when you get there.
You will always get there. That's the amazing thing that I could never wrap my head around. And, years ago, I thought this was all fluffy stuff. And years ago, probably if I was listening to this podcast, I was, that's crazy stuff. Mindset doesn't mean much. It's actually everything. And I figured that 100%. Out years later. But no, it's powerful. And when it comes to that mental fortitude, I think we can all be strong in our will when things are easy.
Yes.
And I think the deciding factor, what separates us from someone who's not going to make it, is when times are tough. Can we still wake up and do what we need to do? Can we still put our nose to the grindstone when it seems like it's a never-ending battle?
Right.
That resilience is really what would define success versus not. And when we want to give up, every time we want to give up at something, that is a determining factor. If we push through, we're probably going to win. That's going to separate us from others that won't make it. So whether it's food or lifestyle or any of these things. And then, not to wrap up because I still need to talk about mine, but as we talked about before we started our podcast today, these are not just character traits of a healthy person. They're character traits of a successful person in life. Every aspect, you can apply these things to everything in life and you will be more successful. Relationships, everything and anything. So the one that I talked about courage. And I never really, I think I kind of had a little moment there when we were brainstorming what we're going to talk about today and how courage plays into it. And then you and I were talking about lab tests on our own, mm-hmm. and, concerns about maybe some things that we were concerned about in our health. And having the courage to take the step and open that door to find out what you might not want to see is frightening as all heck. And I think, as you and I, Dr. Kolby, I think we forget what it's like sometimes to be on the other side of the table. I think we forget a lot of the courage it takes to say, oh my goodness, I'm going to go see Dr. Kolby or Dr. Harrison, and we're going to find stuff out. Some people are like, great, I'm going to finally find out. And some people are like, I have these weird symptoms. I don't know if I want to go there because they're not bad enough yet.
It's like the whole ignorance is bliss kind of thing,
mm-hmm.
But not, you don't know, but you're
mm-hmm.
not getting anywhere by ignoring it.
Exactly. And so it takes the courage to make change. It takes a lot of courage to step away from something to make change because you have to have confidence in the change you're going to make. Everybody that comes into my office, there has to be a significant level of courage for them to open that door, to try something different, to take on something different, especially when they've been to countless doctors and they never got any answers and they were always let down. It takes a lot of courage to go down that path again and to continue searching. So
not only just courage that way, but can you think of you are basically the equivalent of the 10 people you surround yourself with, right? So
Mhm.
can you think of like how much courage it's going to take for you to all of a sudden, if you're going to implement all these different dietary or lifestyle choices, to go out there and be like, look, guys, I'm doing this. Like that takes a lot of courage. It's hard, right? Because
That's
it's
right.
uncomfortable.
You
Because
deviate
that's your
from your
support
you
system.
deviate
Yeah.
from your peer group.
Yep.
I still remember, and I don't know where this came from. This is definitely off the cuff here. I remember when I was in high school, I used to do a lot of bodybuilding. That was my thing. And I was reading some old, back when we read magazines, it was this bodybuilder magazine. And this guy was talking about his training. He was in Europe somewhere, and he actually poured concrete for his own, his dumbbells, because he didn't have anything like that. Like he was, kind of working out in like a stone shack. And he won, he broke multiple records around the world. So he's well known, and they were doing a thing on him. And he said the most important thing for his success was when his friends were partying and socializing and hanging out, and he would leave his peer group where they would criticize him, and he would hit the gym and follow his regimen. He said that was what made him successful, where he had the courage to do something different, had the courage to accept criticism, had that courage. And I've seen it in patients. I've seen patients call ahead of time at restaurants to see what they had, and everybody's having pizza, and they couldn't have pizza for whatever reason, and they brought their own ingredients to put on their pizza in a pizza joint, and they asked permission ahead of time. Now that's beyond courage, I think.
That's pretty courageous.
Yeah, called ahead of time, asked them if they can do it, and they said, anything you want, miss. I said, okay, I'll be there at this time. And she was still able to have her pizza that they couldn't make with her toppings amongst the birthday party or whatever it was. And
that's amazing. That's actually like legitimately amazing.
It was for me. I was like, wow, I'm impressed. I don't know if I would have a hard time to have courage to do that. It was like, I just want to go. And then what happens? You avoid out, and you don't feel empowered. So I think that was really good that we brought this up, because these are pieces that aren't only for health, but for life. So I think if anybody's listening to this, take these words really seriously. We're not just pulling these out of thin air. These are characteristics that we see in clients all the time that do the best, that do the absolute best. And nobody's going to get 100% if we're we're record keeping of someone or test scores. No one's going to get 100% on all of these, but we should really be aware of them. Are we less adaptable? If someone says that we have to do something different, can we adapt and make that change and still be engaged? Are we holding ourselves accountable? If we don't hold ourselves accountable, who is? Well, sometimes we need accountability partners, which that'll be the next one. And then positive thinking. Are you a Debbie Downer? I think everybody has the tendency of that, but are you a Debbie Downer more frequently than not? I think that there was a podcast, maybe you and I talked about it. The question, are you a motor or an anchor? And most people believe that they're a motor. They help pull people along. They tend to not. The people who are anchors think they're motors. An anchor meaning holding people back with negativity, with pessimism, with what have you. So I think to do all of this, we have to look at ourselves. We have to look in the mirror. It's not easy. But it's possible, and it's necessary. So, did you have anything else to add, Dr. Kolby?
No, I didn't. I think you actually summed that up beautifully. Obviously, thanks for watching Brainstorming or listening to Brainstorming, and stay tuned because we got some more stuff coming. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, like us to break down any health topics, or you just have questions for Dr. Glenn or myself, you can get us at info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. You can also get us on our websites, which is www.northlakeschiropractic.com or www.drgharrison.com. And make sure you turn on the notifications because we got more coming down the pipe. So stay tuned.
We do. All right. That was great, Dr. Kolby. I look forward to the next one.
See you later, man.
Bye-bye.